Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Arsum and I'm a current senior at Pomona College, which is one of the five Claremont colleges in Claremont, California. Pomona has been consistently ranked as one of the top colleges and one of the top liberal arts institutes in the United States. It has an acceptance rate of less than 4% and a batch size of 550 individuals, so it is super competitive to get into. Pomona has also been called the Harvard of the West Coast, so it is really an esteemed institution, and I consider myself incredibly privileged to be able to attend Pomona. But just 3.5 years ago, I was living in Lahore, Pakistan, having been rejected from every single college I applied to. So really, this video is about how I went from being rejected from 20 colleges to being accepted into Pomona College as the first in my generation and on a full scholarship and being an international student, right? So if you're a student who's applying to the US and you're going through this process and you fit into any one of these buckets, or even just generally, or if you're just an individual who's facing a lot of challenges in their life and has a lot of self-doubt, I want to make this video to showcase to you guys and teach you guys 5 basic lessons that I learned through my gap year and the ones that I implemented on myself, which helped me change and level up myself as an individual, as an applicant, right? And these skills are very transferable. So I'm super excited to do this because this is the kind of support I would have wished for I had when I was going through this process. And I hope you enjoy this as well. And when you finish the video, do let me know which one of these 5 principles did you like the best and are most eager to apply in your life. And with that said, let's get into it. So before we move into the meat of the video, which are the 5 lessons, I want to give you guys some context, some background on what was happening in my life and who I am. So I grew up in Lahore, Pakistan, in a very middle class family. My grandparents had migrated from India to Pakistan after the partition happened. So they literally came to this new land penniless and without any kind of material resources essentially. And so growing up in my dad's childhood, and then even like for us 3 siblings, there was a huge emphasis on education and hard work being the ticket to having a stable life. And really, everything changed for our family when my dad secured the number 1 position in the civil services examination for the country, which is a massive, massive deal, especially given that Pakistan is not a small country, it's a big country of 240 million people. And so that did not make us super rich, but it did guarantee that my siblings and I can have a good quality education, which my parents can provide for us. And so I grew up having this chip on my shoulder, a lot of expectations. You know, I was the child of someone who had secured the number 1 position in the country. And naturally, I felt that weight on my shoulders. So I would study insanely hard, 12, 14, 16 hours a day throughout middle school and high school as well. And I remember my friends used to call me a nerd and whatnot. And I just did not care. The only thing I cared for was to make my dad proud. And so this was all good, but somewhere along the way, I feel like some of that success got up to me, and I became a bit arrogant because I could not channel it properly, right? So I was very good academically, and so somewhere like it made me have this false sense of humility, that I did not have any addictions. I did not drink, I did not smoke, no vape, did not stay up late night, did not go out late night. A lot of those bad vices that a lot of our youth unfortunately have. And so naturally, because I did not do those things, somewhere I believed that I must be better than all of these other people around me, even though I respected them. And little did I realize at that point that this mindset, this belief was setting me up for failure. And so in 2020, the year I was supposed to graduate from high school, you're also supposed to send applications to colleges. And so I applied to 20 places and I applied to 20 of the top colleges in the US actually. Didn't really invest a lot of time into research for safety schools or something because I truly believed at that point that I deserve the best. So I'm just going to like apply to every single college. Didn't do thorough research. I also did not apply early decision because once again, my SAT score in this case was a 1420. I believed I deserved better and that I could do better. And I did not want to get stuck with a college that I knew I could have done better. And so I did not even apply early actually. So I only applied regular, spent perhaps 6 or 7 days in net total working on my applications. And then when March came around, all the rejections started pouring in one by one until the last one, my whole world changed. It was, now that when I look back at it, there was a lot of uncertainty and it was a very funny and a very like disturbing sort of experience because for the first time my whole world had crumbled down. And if you're South Asian or even if you're Asian, you know that rejection for us is not just personal, it's public because all the aunties at family gatherings are going to ask about you and where you're going to go. and they're going to compare you to their son or their daughter. And even though those are not good features, they are the cultural feature of our regions, right? And so I remember going through all of that. All of my friends, my cousins, other people of equivalent age in my family and my circle, they're all going somewhere. The only exception is me. So I have to dodge family dinners. I'm just locked up in my room by myself. And so it's really a very dark place for me at that point. And what really hurt the most in the 1 month that followed March, and me understanding that I'm not going to go anywhere for the next 1 year, was that I had no one to blame but myself. I had just not put in the work. I had been too cocky, too arrogant, and thought that the momentum I had in the past would carry me forward, but that had not been the case. Surely something had messed up, and I could not blame anyone except myself, and that is extremely painful. And so, after 4 weeks of feeling sorry for myself and isolating in my room and killing my health, I decided enough was enough. Right? I had already hit rock bottom. There was nothing worse that could happen than this. The worst thing that had already happened, I was not going to go to college for 1 whole year, and I still had my life. So, there could be nothing wrong, further wrong that could happen. The only way forward was upward. That is what I told myself. And one thing I observed through those 4 weeks was that I was really exhibiting this trait, which I now call the princess treatment, which is that I am the best, I deserve the best, and I must get the best. I just deserve the best. It's called princess treatment. And what I realized at that point was I did not put in the work, I did not work hard enough, and so really you don't deserve anything, and you still put in the work, and then based on the amount of work you put in, you deserve something, you can get something. And so I decided to reapply, take a whole gap year, work on my activities, my essays, update my scores, my recommendation letters, and give it another shot, right? Moreover, this time I was going to take extreme ownership. And this is the first lesson I want to teach you guys. Now, perhaps some of you wanted some tips or tricks for the application process itself. And there are those tricks as well, guaranteed, and I can share them in another video. But this is about mindset. Mindset is going to set you up for success or for failure. And the first key lesson I want you guys to learn is so the first key lesson I want you to learn is of extreme ownership. And what do I mean by extreme ownership? Extreme ownership essentially means that you are the one responsible for all of your success and for all of your failures. And that means you can absolutely not blame anyone except yourself for everything that happens to you. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. Some people are going to come after me and be like, but Arsum, that person wronged me in such and such way, so how am I responsible for this? And I just want you to relax. The thing is, yes, things in life do happen to you which you have no control over. That is true. But either you can give other people the control and say, I'm just a victim, I can't do anything about this, or you can make the best of your situation. And the best way to do it is by telling yourself, I'm the one who has control, I can do a lot of things, and I'm going to be taking extreme ownership. That's what this means. Some people also call it extreme accountability or self accountability. Whatever it is, you absolutely must not blame anyone except yourself. And this can feel scary because now all of a sudden you are a grown up man, you're a grown up person, and you're the only one who's responsible for whatever happens. But it is also nice, it is also good if you look at it from the flip perspective, which is yes, I might fail, but the good thing is I am the only one who can cause myself to succeed. If I fail, it is not because of somebody else, and so I don't need to go and ask them or beg them to help me. I'm the only one who can help myself, which means if I fail, I can also make myself succeed by working on my mistakes. And this belief really gives you massive amounts of agency. A lot of people think that they understand this belief, but trust me, unless you repeat it to yourself, you don't really understand what it means. And once you understand what it means and you start to implement it in your life completely changes 180 degrees. Because now you understand, I'm the only one who can create success for myself. And so you're going to go out there and you're going to do it. You're going to become way more confident. But this decision to take a gap year and reapply was not an easy decision. It had a lot of risks, and the biggest risk was that I was an international student, so I was not a US citizen, and I needed a lot of financial aid, nearly complete financial aid. And there's very few colleges who are generous with it, and it is very hard to actually get into those colleges with a good scholarship package. But I knew one thing, and that was that if I did not bet on myself and if I did not take this risk, I would never be able to forgive myself. And so, if there's anything I want you to take from all of this experience, right? And this was a super risky experience because if I did not make it, I would waste 1 year, I would have to settle for a local university, I would never be able to go to the US for undergrad, and I would be 1 year behind all of my batchmates and my peers, right? But I did decide to take the risk. And so, really, I want to push you and motivate you as well to dream a bigger dream. And so here's the interesting thing. So now I took this decision to reapply, and when I started doing all the thinking for myself, what kind of initiatives I need to work on to improve my candidacy, what ended up happening was I became overwhelmed really quickly, right? And I would get burned out. And this takes me to the second lesson for today, which is action relieves anxiety, right? So I want you to repeat after me: action relieves anxiety, or action provides clarity. And what that essentially means is that when you set a big goal for yourself, which is going to push you, you are going to become overwhelmed. You're going to become nervous and you're going to hesitate to put in the work, right? This might happen even without you putting in the work. Just by the fact that you thought that I want to do this thing, and then all of a sudden you realize it's kind of hard to do, that's going to demotivate you. It's going to push you on the back foot, and you might hesitate, procrastinate, and the longer you take to pull the trigger, your chances of succeeding are going to decrease. So that's why the second lesson, which is very important, is action relieves anxiety. You just want to take some action. And I guarantee you this, as soon as you take action, you're always going to feel better after you take the action. So let's say there's something that you want to do, but you don't know how to do it, just do something. Because that something is going to tell you, okay, at least this possible path did not work. So now I'm done with this. So now there's only fewer things left to try with. This is why the second point is so important. I want to emphasize this. A lot of people, they talk big. They tell you, I want to do this, I want to go into a business, I want to get a 4.0 GPA and whatnot. And then when you check on them 4 months later, they basically have done nothing, right? So implementation is so important, and if you lack it, if you do not take action, you're not going to get anywhere. And so what happened with me was the more action I took working on my SAT. So my SAT went from 1420 to 1560. I took 5 SAT subject tests. I got 3 800s in all the sciences, and I got 2 710s in US history and world history. I also did a lot of community work, did some trekking in nature, did some exploration with music. So I took on the bansuri, which is the South Asian flute, right? It's the Indian bamboo flute essentially. I really diversified that, worked more on math Olympiads, and just made myself more presentable. And the basic understanding is the more you work step by step, the more clarity you're going to get in terms of who you want to be. So, for example, I always wanted to build like a story of someone who's super interested in mathematics, right? And so I started by taking online coursework, right? From Stanford, from MIT, like university level courses during this gap year. And then finally, in my supplements, I connected those themes of mathematics with music and with flute. And so what I'm trying to say is the more action you take is going to give you clarity. That's lesson number 2. And this directly takes me to the third lesson for today, which I learned, which is, I'm going to say this: no one cares more about you than you do yourself. So what this means is that most of the constraints, the objections, the hindrances, the limitations that you feel you have are all self-imposed. Literally, no one cares about you as much as you think they do. No one does. Everyone, human beings by nature, are selfish. That's a bad thing to say and believe, perhaps, but this is the truth. Most humans are just obsessed with themselves. If you're someone who suffers from anxiety, as I used to do, always feeling that other people are going to judge me, I just want you to do this thought experiment. Let's say you go into a supermarket, and when you walk into the supermarket, you feel like everyone's watching me. But the truth is, everyone's feeling that everyone's watching them. So really, people are just primarily concerned about themselves and with themselves. No one really cares about you. And so just switching that plug, or like just getting that into your head, is so fundamentally important to growing as an individual and expressing yourself. That's lesson number 3. And so before we go into lesson 4, I want to say one more thing, right? So I remember like this was midway, maybe like 2 months into, I had made a decision to reapply again. And I was just slacking that day. I was just playing video games, sitting on the couch, and my dad walked in, and he looked at me and he was like, Arsum, and these are his exact words that I still remember today, that literally changed everything for me. He said, Arsum, I have given you a second chance to change your life, and if you don't make it this time, then there's no way back and the fault's on you. And just feeling that pressure all of a sudden and understanding the stakes, the fact that I'm literally taking a whole year out of my life to reapply, and so I cannot like be not focused in that moment. And like, so he gave me that reminder, which is you have to be your biggest supporter. You have to be obsessed with yourself. This takes me to lesson number 4, which I feel like is one of the most important lessons out of all the 5 lessons, and that is seeking mentorship. And what do I exactly mean by mentorship? So here's the thing: when I applied the first time, when I got rejected completely, I worked by myself on my applications for less than a week, right? So I did not take any counseling. I did not have a counselor. And as someone who has gone through the process, who did engage a personal counselor, who coached me on my strengths and my weaknesses, and helped me understand how I can present myself in a much better way, I highly encourage seeking mentorship. If you are someone who's applying, I highly encourage reaching out to your seniors, talking to people who've already been through the process. Maybe it's someone you know in your school, your friends, older siblings, even me. If you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to help you with applications or anything. But you need to seek out professional help. That's the basic understanding. And this is something that is just not limited to applications for colleges or jobs or something. You should do the same thing for anything in life, right? So let's say you're opening a business, you should have a mentor who you can learn from. A lot of people feel like that they can do all of these things themselves. You know, they succeed at one thing, like that like was the case with me. I succeeded academically, and that led me to believe that I could succeed when it comes to applying to colleges as well, which is not the case. You might be good at one thing, but that does not necessarily mean you will be good at every other thing. And you will actually not be good at every other thing. So you should always seek mentorship. You should always go and pick the brains of the people who know best or the people whose life you want to live. That's the basic idea. And I might get some criticism for this, but the basic understanding is, let's say you get sick. You won't come to me for a prescription. You're going to go to a doctor and ask them for a prescription. Why? Because the doctor is a professional, and the professional has most expertise in the field. You're going to pay them, and you're going to get this service in return. And so you should apply this principle to everything in life, essentially. This was a big, massive key learning for me. A lot of my friends who had less credentials than me, but who did take counseling, which gave them a lot of good advice in terms of how to navigate certain applications, really helped them and gave them a big edge over me. And so the point I want to get over here is, regardless of whatever you do in life, whatever that is, I have a mentor for myself, and he told me that he had a mentor for learning Spanish, for learning how to fly a plane, for how to date his girlfriend, for literally everything. So the basic idea is, successful people always have mentors, not just for one specific thing, but for everything in life. You can do that. The more you invest in yourself, the more you want to grow. So this is one whole cycle, but the basic nutshell is seek mentorship. And with regards to mentorship, there's a very funny story I had with my mentor. So the first day I walked into the office, I told him everything about myself, my experience in high school and everything, and he listened to me. And you know what he told me? He said, "Arsum, you're a very smart person. Like in terms of your brain strength and everything, like you're very gifted academically, but you only use your brain when it comes to your studies. You really need to diversify and implement across different pathways." That's the advice he gave me. He said you need to go start the gym. So for example, that was something that's completely unrelated to applications, but in terms of building a mindset, building your potential, it is something that is really important. So mentorship really helped me in upgrading my credentials, finding and figuring out so many new volunteer opportunities, getting recommendations from the correct individuals in the correct way, and just being on time with everything, just holding me accountable. So that was really helpful. And with that I'm going to go with the fifth lesson now, which is, there are no free lunches. What that means is that there's no free lunch in the world. Essentially, there's a price to pay for everything, and you must understand that the world is transactional. What that means, and this is also very important, what that means is, when you engage a mentor or someone, that's also a transaction, by the way. You are giving them something, you're paying them, and in return, they're giving you a service, right? And this is a principle that I apply not only to that experience, but to everything else in life as well, right? And what this also means is that you cannot be a princess. You need to understand that anything and everything you want in life has a cost, and you must be ready to pay that cost. If you will not work for your dreams today, whatever those dreams are, and I want to encourage you, whatever those dreams are, if you do not work for them today, your dreams will be the sacrifice tomorrow. If you won't sacrifice for them today, they will end up inevitably being the sacrifice, and you will sacrifice your dreams for someone else. So do not do that. And so with that, I have covered 5 mindset shifts that I underwent, essentially, that helped me a lot through the application process. So they were: extreme ownership, action relieves anxiety, no one cares more about you than you do yourself, seek professional mentorship, and there are no free lunches in the world. Please go ahead, and if you like this video, please go ahead and comment below which one of these 5 mindset shifts did you like the best, and which one are you going to implement in your life. I would also like feedback from you. This is literally my first YouTube video. The day I got my admission into Pomona was, I think it was mid-April or something, and Pomona was my 11th application out of 20 for that year. And so by that point, I had like 5 or 6 wait lists, and then as soon as Pomona came in as an acceptance, I instantly accepted it. They gave me full scholarship. It's a really nice college. If you're interested in applying to the West Coast, in applying to colleges in the US for financial aid, or if you're an international student in any of those relationships, I'm more than happy to help. Please like this video. If you have a friend, please share this with them as well, so that everyone can benefit. I want to provide more resources and more of the things that I have learned through this process, whether that is sharing my essay, my supplements, my activity list, and just so many of the inner details that I know about attending colleges in the US. I know you guys want to see all of those things and I want to provide them as well. So how about you go and help me? So go and write down in the comments below what kind of things do you want to see, and then depending on that we can brainstorm something and work on later videos, right? So that's it. That was the video for today. 5 main mindset shifts that you need to grow as an individual, as an applicant, and just as a person in the world who wants to make an impact, right? So that's it. Thank you so much for watching through. And once again, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. This is also my Instagram over here. If you want to personally DM me, please go ahead. Feel free to reach out to me and do suggest me some ideas, because I want to make more content like this and I want to serve each and every one of you. And last thing before I go, I just want to say one thing, which is how you do one thing is how you do everything. Work hard and God bless you guys. Bye bye.